Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, visitors, subscribers, and Cravenites. Welcome to Craven Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Well, guys, we are here on our usual Saturday night stream, but it's not going to be a usual Saturday night stream. Tonight, we've got a very special guest joining us, someone who I've been very looking forward to meeting and discussing and chatting with tonight. And she's an amazing stunt performer, quite an impressive resume of work and films that she has worked on and television shows. And I'm telling you, if you go to IMDb and look, you'll be like, "Oh yeah, I've seen that show. I've seen that show." And so she's really, really, really amazing. And what really grabbed my attention was when I saw that she was Mia Goth's stunt double in Pearl. I'm sorry, in X as Pearl in X. And so I was like, oh wow, that's. I mean, if you guys have seen X, and I know most of you here that are here in the channel regularly with me, I know you have. And we are going to be talking spoilers tonight, just so you guys know. Giving you a heads up when we talk about X, we're going to be talking spoilers, so we're not going to hold. It's been out long enough now, and there's already a prequel and a sequel in the works. So we're going to be talking about X openly and scenes and different things like that. So you if you have your questions, be ready to send those in. And speaking of questions, real quick, guys, certainly we will do our best to get to as many as possible. Don't forget, though, in the course of 1 hour, it's not that much time, and the conversation will probably flow pretty good. So we will definitely get to as many as possible, but we can't get to everybody's questions or comments. Just know that. But don't take it personal. It's just the way it is. And you guys know that are here regularly how it works. However, I do have an opportunity for you. If you have a question or comment that you really want to make sure that Jacqueline sees tonight and addresses, then you can send a super chat in. I'll get special notification. And my moderators tonight, which is Popping the Popcorn, Katie's moderating the chat. Sarah is here moderating the chat, as well as Jen Warner here. Thank you guys for moderating my chat. They will also send me a notice to make sure I don't miss any super chats tonight, so that we will get your question addressed. Okay. Promise you that. We won't leave until they're all addressed. All right. Well, guys, having said that, let's get right on into it, because we don't want to waste any time with our guest tonight, who is coming to us from a very long way from where I'm at. Let's put it that way. Um, please welcome, guys, the one and only Jacqueline Geurts to the channel. Jacqueline, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome, and it's truly an honor. I seriously mean that. It's a privilege to have you here. And I
Oh,
was
well,
Oh yeah, and I was just gonna say I was so thrilled whenever we started communicating and you accepted the invitation. I'm like, yay! So uh, anyway, it's gonna be a great night. So thank you so much. And so what I thought we would do, Jacqueline, is, again, like I mentioned to you a minute ago. I don't really have a script to follow. I like to just have a conversation, the one on one. And
yeah.
and so what I would like to do, and what I always love to do, especially with someone who's got such an extensive work in the industry as you have, kind of, could you tell us, before we get into X and things, what, generally speaking, how your journey started? Like, where did this all begin for you? I'm dying to know.
No, well, it is a crazy journey because I actually started with marine biology. So I actually started with science, and I knew I wanted to do that since I was 7. So I took that direct line. But then when I was doing conferences and things like that, I wanted to become better at public speaking and getting a story across. So I took up some acting classes. And so then I made this giant switch over to acting. And I did that for several years before I actually thought about getting into stunts. One of my friends actually said, "Oh, with your physicality, you'd be really good at stunt work." So I did. I gave it a go, and here I am now.
Wow, that's
Something
so.
like, yeah, I think it's been like 10 years in the stunt industry. Hmm.
Wow. Now, so having looking back, and isn't it crazy how sometimes in life we start with a certain plan, or we have a route that we're sure we're taking, and
Yeah.
life just says, well, you know what, you're actually going to exit here and go this way. And but oftentimes that's the beautiful thing, right? Because we find our calling and what we're
Yeah.
meant to do.
I do. I think it's really, really important. The biggest thing I learned from that is to listen to those little voices, not the ones that tell you to do crazy things, but the ones that tell you to do, positive things. And it doesn't scream at you. It just, constantly is a niggle. And it's like, for whatever
Yeah.
reason, we say, oh, I couldn't do that, or maybe that's not really me, or no, I'm doing this. But if it's consistent enough, it's usually the thing that's going to propel you in the direction that you should really be going. So here I am,
Yes.
and
Yes.
chatting to you.
That's so amazing. I know, right? Here we are. Wow. And now I know that you operate out of New Zealand primarily. Is that right? Is that your kind
To
of
a
your home
certain
base?
degree,
Yeah.
yeah. So at the moment, I'm in New Zealand, but I just came back from the States on the 10th of December. I have a green card now. So in the middle of a
Oh,
pandemic, the
yeah.
universe said, "Here, have a green card," and it was something that I had been applying for about 15 years. I'd been entering the green card lottery, and
Okay.
yeah, and so it came up. I was like, "It's my turn now," and they said, "Yep, it is your turn." so
Yes.
so while everyone was coming to New Zealand during a pandemic, I was like, "Okay, I'm going," and I went over to the States. So I've been operating out of the States for the last 2 years.
Okay then. All right. Well, that probably makes things a lot easier right now. I mean, I now of course with X, as we'll get into it a little bit, I believe that was filmed actually in New Zealand, right? Is that if I remember
Yeah,
correctly? Yeah.
yeah, it was.
That now
And
that
Pearl
yeah.
also was as well. Yeah, they
What,
both were.
oh yeah. Okay. So that was probably kind of wild, right? Kind of like going home to go to work instead of like LA or here in the States on the movie sets and things like that. Is that different?
Well, the crazy thing about that was I was actually in New Zealand at the time. I was finishing 7 months on Cowboy Bebop, which is a live action version of the anime. So I
Oh.
just done that, and I was packing my bags, getting ready to go to America. I'd literally finished the job. I was about to come back home, and I got a phone call. I told you, a phone call, an email, a text message can change
Yes.
your life. Yeah. And
Yes.
so I get this phone call saying, "Hey, we really need you down south. Can you jump on a plane in the early morning and come and do this job?" I had no idea what I was doing. I just was like, "Yeah,
Wow.
okay, I'll come help you out." And so I got up at 7 o'clock that morning, went to the airport, jumped on a plane. I arrived about an hour and a half later, and I literally went straight into a rehearsal, and then I did a wire rehearsal, and then I did a driving rehearsal, and then they were like, "Okay, so now you're going to go into makeup," and I'm like, "Okay," and they said it's going to be a particularly long makeup session, like 4 hours, and I was like,
Oh.
"Ah, okay." Nobody had told me what was
Oh
happening,
my
and then
gosh.
so I toddled on and caught up with my friend Sarah Barno, who's the makeup artist, and next minute I'm full little old lady, full saggy tits, everything. And then I went straight onto set, and I had to do the first scene, and then I had to stick around and
Wow.
then do the last couple of scenes as well. So I literally did a whole 24-hour session. Yeah, before I could actually pack up and go to the States. So it was all very,
Wow.
yeah, fast
Wow.
paced.
That is very fast paced. And so I guess we can go ahead and jump into X now and we can bounce around. Um so so with your work on X, and was it primarily or was it only in as Pearl, or did you do any other uh scenes as Maxine as Mia's
Yeah,
character?
so it's really interesting because a lot of the times when you work on a show, if you're a part of the core team, or, in my instance, I've actually managed to double a lot of different people, or I play a lot of
Mhm.
different characters. For this one, I was Pearl, and I got shot out of the door as Pearl, and then I became Maxine to run over her head. So I died, and then I ran over my own head.
That's awesome.
So it was kind of bizarre.
Let's show everybody, guys. Get ready to have your minds blown, guys, when because you see Jacqueline in front of us now, and get ready to see her as Pearl from X. You ready, guys? Here we go. Check this out. Look at that.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So 4 hours, right, Jacqueline,
Yeah.
to get that done. My
Yeah.
gosh.
There were lots of different segments and like even right down to the chest because it was under like a nightgown.
Uh-huh.
But lots of different segments that needed to be placed in particular areas. But Sarah Rubano was the lead makeup for this, and she did a fantastic job. I actually did a time lapse for it to see
Oh,
the whole process of it. But yeah, 4 hours, lots of different silicon pieces. Yeah.
wow. Look at that. My goodness. When I saw this image initially, I'm like, oh my gosh. It took me right to the movie immediately. I'm like, there's
Oh,
Pearl.
great.
It's just, it's amazing. Just mind blowing, honestly, man. It just is so incredible. And Um, yeah, that scene with that shotgun scene, oh man. It didn't work out too well for Jenna Ortega for Churchill Mouse, but it didn't work out for either one of them, honestly. With the with the broken hip, so I was
Do you
like,
know the funny
oh,
thing is I haven't seen the movie yet. I've been dying to see it, but I haven't actually seen it yet, which is really funny. But
really?
I
Mm.
think if people go onto my IMDb, I think somewhere in there is a behind the scenes shot of that rig, that wire rig that we had to
Yeah.
do. So the camera was actually um, down the barrel because it was down a
Okay.
hallway, so it was down the barrel, and it was actually going through the doorway. But the footage that I have is from outside, and so you'll actually see me come out onto the step, which is really great.
Oh yes. I gotta somehow I missed that this footage. I gotta find that footage.
Yeah,
I
and if
gotta
it's not there, then I'll post it up sometime soon. But I'm pretty sure it's there. But
okay.
the
Yeah.
interesting thing about that rig was it's quite tricky because I'm right-handed, so to pull a shotgun up at the same timing as the actors that are in the room for certain things to go off. Um, but also, what they did was they said no, she's left-handed, so I had to quickly switch to a left-handed one, and
Oh.
you have to do the acting beats beforehand without, as a stunt performer, when you're going through a doorway, you have to be really careful that you don't flare your elbows, otherwise you get those taken out.
Oh gosh.
So keeping everything in so that you can fit through that doorway. And the first couple of takes, we actually took the door frame, the what is it, the screen, the door screen. We
Mhm.
took that with us, so that was, my body was impaled through that, and that came with me. But then on the third one, yeah, managed to actually push through it. So we had 3 breakaway doors that we were able to use.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so
What
we just used all 3 of them just for variation. So one I shot out like 4 or 5 meters, the next one was 3 meters, and the next one was just a couple of meters onto a particular spot. So
oh my
yeah.
gosh. Now I gotta ask you about the, um, whenever you got shot out the door, that's the how was the force of that? Like, what like, how could you compare it to anything? Like, how the force was for you?
So what they actually do is it was just another person on the line. So we call it a
Okay.
hand bomb, but it was rigged high, so you can imagine that it would sort of go high and then it would go out. So I'd get the height, but then they'd also pull me through. So there's a little bit of a rig system that goes on there. So the power of it, I mean, in order to get out further, it was quite powerful to get me out there. And so you're just kind of prepping for the ground. But then the last one that I think they actually used in the film was a spanker. So it just it was and straight down. So it's a good spank
Okay.
on the back. Yeah.
Wow, boy. So how is your adrenaline at that point? It's gotta be like the anticipation, right? I know you've done this for a while, but
Yeah.
still, what does that feel like for you before when you know action's coming? You're ready to hear action.
It definitely, there is a little bit of adrenaline there in the sense of once you've done it, you're kind of like, come on, let's do it again. Like that was quite cool. But I don't
Yeah.
think that you can ever become complacent in a stunt, because if you become complacent, that's when the little accidents happen. That can actually be a big thing.
Yes.
So I always like to have a little bit of awareness there for sure, because then it just keeps you super safe, but it also keeps everybody else around you safe. I know that the crew were a little bit on edge with this particular gag, so whenever we do a stunt, we call it a gag. So
Okay.
in order to put them at ease, you just need to sort of be super focused and, not
Definitely.
muck around, but just, have that focus there in order to pull it off. And then you've only got 3 breakaway doors, so you definitely want to get it right. And there's a lot of things to it. It's a lot of the acting beats. There's lots of things that are being told to you in order to match certain shots that were done with the actor and all the rest. So, you definitely not apprehensive, but you're definitely in a zone for sure. I definitely go into a zone. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I can imagine you'd have to be, because like you say, you've got basically three takes at the most, right? That's with the breakaway doors,
Yeah, for that
right?
one, yeah,
For
definitely
that
it was zone
one.
3. Mm.
Wow. Um, Real quick, we got a super chat just came in, and I always promise everyone to get moved to the front of the line. And Jason, the nice one with a $2 super chat. Thank you for your support, Jason. Says thank you for being here, Jacqueline. He called you Samara. See that? That's how convincing you were. I love it. Oh,
That's
yes.
you're welcome. Yeah, I'm not Samara yet.
And we're going to talk about some of your work with doubling for her as well here in a little bit too.
Yeah, for
Jason, thank
sure.
you, man. Appreciate that. And we also had a question come in from my good friend, the Carbonite Jedi. Wanted to ask you if you've done work in sci-fi movies. He's a big sci-fi fan.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that that question came up. I did actually come off a movie in LA. It's called Atlas. It's with Jennifer Lopez, and that will be for Netflix. And that's a bit of a I think it's a bit of a sci-fi one. Yeah.
Ooh. Now, is that something that's going to be this year, you think, coming out? Or do you think maybe next year?
I would say we finished it in November, at the end of November last
Okay.
year, 2022. So
Okay.
possibly, I don't really know the answer to that one, and I can't really give any
Okay.
spoilers on that. But it'll be
Yeah.
cool.
Sure, sure,
It'll be cool.
sure.
They could
Let's see
Google it.
here.
It's called Atlas.
Is that the one directed by Brad Payton, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, I see it here. I see it in IMDb. Okay. Let's see here. They're showing it, no date yet. They're showing it in post production. What a great synopsis. Ooh, now this is so. I'll tell you what, man. I'll tell you, Jacqueline. Whenever when that movie comes out, maybe if you're up for it at that time, we can. I'd love to have you back so we can kind of talk about that openly when that comes out. That looks like it's going to be an amazing movie. Sterling K.
Yeah.
Brown is also in it, he's a phenomenal actor as well. Um, wow, nice. And I won't ask you questions, obviously, about that. I understand that
Yeah.
stuff's under wraps, so I won't. Yeah, um, but maybe more to come on that in the
Yeah.
future.
Maybe more to come.
Yes,
I'm not sure. Does Cowboy Bebop, even though it's an anime, does that still come under a sci-fi because it is
I mean,
a genre?
I think you could squeeze it in. Yeah,
Let's squeeze it in.
yeah. I think just enough room in the back. We'll get you in. Come on inside. We'll get you in. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great question, Carbonite. That's awesome. Excuse me. Okay, so your total time. So then now you said about 24 hours. So was it like one full day of shooting for X? Was that the main focus for you for your role was the shotgun scene, right? The
Yeah.
running the running over
Yeah.
scene
Driving over the head. I don't know how that came out. It would be interesting because that
came out really good.
did it because we
Yeah,
had a few problems with that. That was first of all you had to get very accurate with that, but I
yeah.
don't know if it was squirting out the blood the way that they initially wanted it to. But did it work? It worked.
It worked awesomely. I mean, as a viewer, oh yeah, just watching the movie, it's awesome. It's perfect, honestly. I mean, it was. I'll just to let you know, X was my favorite movie of the year. It was my number
Uh
one horror film of the year.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, nice.
and it's followed up by Pearl. Actually, was number two, but X was number one, and that whole ending scene with just the whole thing from the shotgun, broke my hip. It's like, help me. You're going to be just like me. I'm like, man, even to her last breath, she's like just being ugly. And 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 Maxine gets in the truck. Oh, you get in the truck, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
and boom, just oh man. All I can tell you is that it was executed great from my perspective. I give it
Oh,
two,
that's great.
10.
I mean, we do have very experienced crews down in New Zealand. They're
Yeah,
some of the best in the world. You know, they've worked on massive shows like all the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit and all that sort of thing. So very
yeah.
experienced. That X was really fun to go down and do. It was a really great surprise, and yeah, definitely getting into prosthetics and having to portray a character like that. You know,
Oh
that
yeah,
was pretty cool. Yeah, I'd like to say it's not a once in a lifetime experience, but it could also be once in a lifetime experience. Yeah,
yeah.
I
Well,
like
that's
getting.
awesome. Well, yeah. Well, and it's great that you have a great perspective too, which is awesome. You're not taking anything for granted, and I love that. You're appreciating these moments, and because we never know what tomorrow holds, right? We never know what tomorrow holds, and
Mm-mm.
so we definitely. I think we all probably could use a little more appreciation. I know I can for things in life, so it's nice to hear that you're real mindful of that, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
have
it's
to,
a crazy industry in that regard
yeah.
because you're only as good as your last moment. Only as good as your last moment on set, and you never know if another job's going to come back around. It relies on it if people want to hire you. So it can be a very fickle industry. So you
Hmm.
have to be super grateful for every moment that you get, and also having people put their faith and trust in you that you can do the job for them,
Yeah.
and because you don't actually get a lot of opportunities in terms of performing, especially in stunts. They want to be able to pull you in and know that you can do the job and do it.
Hmm.
Time is money, so you want to be able to do it quickly and efficiently and get on with it. So um, you don't want to hold anything up. You want to come in,
Hmm.
smash it out, and say bye.
That's right. And see you next time, hopefully, right?
See you next time. Yeah.
ZZM's just wanted to say that you were very convincing standing in for Mia.
Oh,
Um,
great. Thank you. I appreciate that. I
yes,
appreciate that.
honestly, I'm telling you, you definitely need to watch the finished product, Jacqueline. I'm telling you,
Yeah. Good.
it's intense. It is so intense.
It is.
Um,
It's definitely as a stunt performer, you're not just doing the stunts. You're actually doing a lot of acting, and
mhm.
it can be a lot of copying your actor and seeing how they move and what they do and how they hold themselves. And so, I mean, obviously the makeup plays a big part of that, but depending on what you're doing, you do really have to, yeah, observe your actor and make sure that you're mimicking them as much as you can. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm just curious now with your time on set. Did you get a lot of time with Ty West? Did you get to spend some time with him, or was it more limited with Ty?
It was more limited. We were there to do a job, and it
Okay.
was there was a lot packed into the day. Yeah, but
Okay.
really great. Great experience with them. The whole crew were great, but yeah, he was
Yeah.
really receptive. So yeah,
Awesome. I really respect him a lot as a filmmaker, and
mm.
with what he's from where he came from back with VHS, and back in the way back, and to see what he's done now with X and Pearl. Wow, it's really impressive. Really, really
Yeah.
is.
If you
And
watch the trailer for those, I mean, they're very enticing films. Even
yeah.
I'm not a big fan of horror, even though I perform in a lot of horror. Makes me a little bit queasy, a little bit scared, but um, yeah, watching the trailer for that, I was like, wow, X is going to be cool. Like, it's very funky and really stylized. It had a really different vibe to it from anything else. I thought it was really
Hmm.
clever. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
really.
For sure. And then after seeing Pearl, it really, what a nice job with the prequel of Pearl. The story it tells and how it connects in is pretty.
Yeah, clever.
It just it answers a lot of the questions from X, like how did she get to this place in her life? Like that's what I was asking myself. How did Pearl become Pearl? Like how did this happen?
Yeah.
And it really shines a lot on on things. So
Hmm.
yeah, for sure. That was wow, great work. What a
Unfortunately,
great film.
but fortunately, I was in the States when they were filming Pearl. So that, because it actually came quite quickly after they'd wrapped on
Ah,
on X, so it wasn't too long after. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was busy doing other things.
Hey, that's all right. You know, your mark. You made your mark on X,
Yeah.
so you made your mark for sure.
Good.
And let's see here. Now, also, I wanted to mention that, and I've been sharing this with folks as well, that not only X, but and you know, and again, you've done quite a bit of extensive experience, which is so cool. But the one in particular I wanted to mention was where, excuse me, with Samara Weaving
Mm,
being her stunt double, and I know that with Ash versus Evil Dead, all right,
yes.
and look at you, here the two of you are together here. Now, tell me, I would love to hear your experience about, as we talked about earlier, getting that phone call. How did that phone call come around for the Bruce Campbell iconic film or series?
Oh, I know. Well, there's a stunt coordinator called Stu Thorpe, and he's done a lot of big movies, a lot of big things. Um, and he brought me onto that show along with another lady called Dana Grant. And so, yeah, they were just like, oh, you're going to double Samara Weaving. And I did a whole bunch of rehearsals for it because she gets a lot of stuff happen to her. Like, you know, she
Hmm.
has nails through her feet and through her hands and gets dragged along the floor and all that sort of thing. And but the funny part about doubling for Sam, because that was the first time I've ever doubled for Sam. And even she was like, "Oh my God, I sent this photo to my mum, and she reckons that you look more like me than my sister." And I was like, "Okay, that's a good thing." But the text message that I got from Dana was, "How do you feel about having cockroaches on your body?" And I was like, "Ah, well, you only live once. I don't particularly like cockroaches at all, but you only live once, and maybe it's on my bucket list. Maybe it's not." But I said, "Yeah, let's do it." And
That's
so
awesome.
literally, I had to have a whole like hundreds and hundreds of cockroaches, which had kind of been warmed up. They say they're warmed up because then they scuttle further. And I literally stood there and just had I was wearing a pair of pants, but it has a pocket in it, and they pour all these cockroaches into the pants, and then I
Oh,
open up the pants, and then all the cockroaches just crawl everywhere, and it was
oh,
pretty crazy, pretty surreal. Yeah.
yes, yes. You know, God bless you. I couldn't do it. I'm just, there's no way I could do it. That's just, oh man. But,
Even Sam had
oh,
some cockroaches on her face, like she had to do some. And then there was another
oh,
guy who played a different character, and he had cockroaches in his mouth, playing like a dead character.
oh,
I'm like,
no.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Um, that's fascinating. Wow. What?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
that whole series, so they did Ash season 1, 2, 3. So when I doubled Sam, that was season 1.
Hmm.
But then there was a bunch of stuff that sort of led into season, not for her, but when it went into season 2, we actually filmed a lot out at it was an old asylum. So
Oh,
it's, yeah, and
oh,
so we were filming asylum scenes inside an old asylum. So it was an old
wow.
like where a lot of people were kind of, I guess, tortured in a way. And
Wow.
we yeah, it's a crazy place. They say it's super haunted out there, and it was quite
Ooh.
freaky because when you're filming stuff around, you know, with Ash, you're sort of filming around, you know, not poltergeist, but you know, spirits and all the rest of it. There was one moment where the director was looking at the monitor, but the monitor started to do some weird things, like show some weird images and stuff like that. And everyone,
What? Oh.
oh, what's this? Like, yeah, it was very bizarre. And there was like a
Ooh.
weird light that came up, but there was no light there. Like it was really odd.
Wow.
Yeah. And there was a couple
Wow.
of freaky little incidents that happened out there. It's quite a freaky place to go to. And there's actually people that
Oh.
live out there, which is crazy.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
yeah,
Yes.
why would you want to live there?
Right. Of all the places you could live, right? I'm gonna go there.
Yeah, I know, right? What are
Oh
we
man.
bringing up?
No,
And
yeah,
then on
yeah. Go
on
ahead.
one of the different films that we did for Sam, so we did Guns Akimbo. When we were
Hmm.
out there, one of the crew members actually saw a first AD, which they thought, so that was in Germany, and so that's Guns Akimbo there. And we filmed half in New Zealand, half in Germany. So the bit in
Okay.
New Zealand, it was at the same asylum, and I think, I know the stunt coordinator saw, and the director, they saw the first AD in the doorway, and they were like calling her name, but then she just disappeared, and they were
Oh.
like, oh, why didn't she respond back? And they knew that that room didn't have any doorway out apart from the doorway that they saw, and it was upstairs.
Mm-mm.
And
Mm-mm.
then they heard her voice downstairs, so they went and had a look in that room, and there was nobody in there.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah, pretty freaky
Man.
place.
Oh. Whoa. Well, that's that. That adds a whole nother level of authenticity, if you will. Like when you're filming a movie with these deadites, right? We're talking about the demonic stuff, and then you're in a
Yeah,
place that's like really like stuff's happening. That's the
yeah,
whole. Oh, that's
yeah.
next level.
They talk about that asylum, and they talk about, you don't want to go too far because it's like a whole bunch of buildings everywhere, but you don't want to go too far because apparently it will change and it'll become a bit of a maze. So you can get lost
Oh,
quite easily in there. So
oh no. Mm-mm.
yeah,
No,
must play
thank
tricks on
you.
your mind or something. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Ah. Also, hey, real quick, we got a super chat came in here from Colby with a $10 super chat for the channel. Thank you, Colby, for your support, my man. Says thanks, Jacqueline, for being here. Beautiful souls like you make these movies awesome, especially to us movie nerds. Thank you for your work in all these movies.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Colby. That's really kind.
And it's very true. I 100%. And I guarantee you, for everyone that's here in the live chat and watching this on replay after the stream ends, we're all echo that same sentiment for sure,
Mhm.
Jacqueline. And Jacqueline, you and I were talking about it. Remember before we went live? I was like, you know, these movies that we love, they would not be the movies that we love without the work that you and the others in the stunt performing
Mhm.
industry have done. Because you're the ones that are really closing the deal, if you will. You're the ones that are you're the ones that are making those shots real, with
Yeah,
actually falling, actually jumping, actually driving, actually doing all that stuff.
yeah.
And so if you took your work out of these movies, they would even be watchable for the most
Yeah,
part.
and training all the actors as well, because they want actors to do more and more of their own stuff, which is great, and it makes it a lot easier in terms of filming and camera angles, and you can get a lot more in camera, so you don't have to change the shots,
Hmm.
which is cool. But then you've also got to keep them safe, because even cells like where you have to whip your neck, that takes training, and it can hurt your neck. Anything can hurt you, and with
Yeah.
the amount of money and time that goes into this, and we all know that it all comes down to money a lot, for films
Mhm.
and TV shows. So you can't afford to lose anybody. So if somebody does get injured, you know, it doesn't pay very well for the show and the rest of the
Yeah.
crews, because if you have to stand a show down, then you're standing everybody down. So yeah, we work really, really hard to try and make sure we're safe, but especially our actors are safe and they have everything that they need in order to understand what it is that they're doing and what they're getting
Hmm.
themselves into. And yeah, I trained Sam a
Yes.
lot in the fighting, whether it was for Snake Eyes or Ash vs Evil Dead or Guns Akimbo or whatever. Just especially making sure that she's safe and ready to go, and she's super appreciative as well. She always gives a good shout out to the stunt team and myself. um, she's really
Wow.
respectful and kind. Yeah, she's amazing, and super talented too, not just in acting but physically. She's very, very capable. Hmm.
She really is. The role she's played, like at Ready or Not, she did such a
Yeah,
great job in Ready or Not, and the babysitter, what a great
yeah,
role. She's. I've been a fan of hers for quite some time, and that's amazing. It's great stuff.
yeah. Well, you'll be pleased to know she's an amazing person. She's got a really good heart. So
Oh
yeah,
man,
I'm very
that's
lucky to have been able to work with her.
well, that even makes it better, doesn't it? It's like, cause
Yeah,
you never know. We see a lot of times, some side of the in the movie industry of folks that's not, it's kind of a disappointing sometimes when you see their personalities and stuff when they're off camera. But it's so great to hear stories like this, like how,
Yeah.
she's like really straight up nice. She really is the real
Yeah.
deal. And that's wonderful. It really, I mean, I heard, a lot of great stories. Ashley Ray Riddick, who's a stunt performer also. She was Jamie Lee Curtis's stunt double in the last Halloween trilogy,
Oh
and
yeah, great.
had her on the channel. We chatted about her time with Jamie Lee Curtis, and she had some great things to say about her working one on one with her. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's just neat. And Christina Applegate too, when she was stunt double for her in the movie Vacation, the
Ah,
remake.
legend. Yeah.
And yeah, she did all of Christina's stunts. So she gave some insight on her. It's really just nice to hear that. So I'm happy because I'm a big Samara Weaving fan. And Jacqueline, I know that you mentioned earlier you're not a big horror fan, but Scream 6 is coming out on March the 10th over here in the US. And
It's an
Samara
iconic
Weaving.
film, that.
It is. It is. It's my favorite film franchise, and it's kind of
Mm.
why I started my channel here was to celebrate it
Ah, there you go.
initially. And Wes Craven, as you can see from Craven, that's my favorite all-time director.
Yeah.
Um, but Samara Weaving is going to be in Scream 6. She's got a role,
Mm-hmm.
and I uh, I went on to the stunt double area looking for stunt work. Now, I couldn't see your name, but I was gonna ask you while you were here, and if you can't answer, it's okay to say, "Yeah, I can't answer." If you might happen to be doubling Samara because you've done that more than once, uh, in Scream 6 by chance.
Well, I haven't been given the call up for that, so I don't know. I
Okay,
mean, there's a possibility that there wasn't a lot of stunts, or maybe not required a lot of stunts, and
true.
some of the things that she could probably have done herself. So I don't know.
Mhm.
It was the same with Ready or Not. I was Sam emailed me and asked me to double her for that one, but then it came down to the production team wanting Canadian local because it wasn't hugely stunt heavy, and so
Okay.
they wanted a
Yeah.
local performer. So sometimes it just comes down to
Ah,
that sort of thing as well. Yeah.
that makes sense. No, it's
Hmm.
it's it totally does. But I will tell you this though, and Snake Eyes, it's funny because Snake Eyes is a movie that I have not seen yet. And it was on my radar forever, and I got onto other things, and it's kinda, like, slipped off my radar. You ever had that happen? And you're like, "Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Whoa, Snake Eyes." And so, I was hoping to have watched it before tonight. It just didn't this week just didn't happen, but I'm going to, uh, and so and I know that you were her stunt double on that. So can you I know it's not horror, guys, but we have an opportunity to get some insight from Jacqueline on the Snake Eyes film. So I would love
Hmm.
for us to take that opportunity to just briefly at least kind of
Yeah.
ask you about your experience doubling for Samara Weaving on Snake Eyes and how that was.
Yeah, I was really honoured to be asked to go and work over in Snake Eyes with Sam. She'd requested me to come over. There were two cohorts to that. So there was the Canadian side, and then there was the Japan side. So Sam's character wasn't needed until Japan. So I went over to Japan for several months, and actually part of her role required her to drive, but I had to teach her how to drive. She doesn't drive a car, wasn't driving a car at that particular point in time.
Oh,
So yeah,
really?
we yeah, we did a whole lot of driving practice, which was really, really fun. And then one of the other actresses that we trained with and worked a lot with was Ursula Copero, who if you have seen the TV show, it's called Money Heist on Netflix. It's
Oh,
got
yeah.
5 or 6 seasons. It's really good, and
Yeah.
she's amazing. And so her and Sam got on really well, and we all got on really well as a team, and did a lot of fight training and car rehearsal, and ate lots of noodles and sushi. But yeah, no, Snake Eyes was fun. It was cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Not as much blood as all the other ones.
Right? Yeah. A little different genre there, right? A little different
Yeah.
style of film.
Yeah. I kind of feel like every time I'm in the makeup chair, it's like there will be blood.
I can imagine. And I have to
Yeah.
ask you, and I meant to ask you this earlier. Um, so it took in case for those of you who are just joining now, coming in later, it took 4 hours for Jacqueline to get made up here and to Pearl from X. 4 hours of practical makeup. And I have to ask you, how long did it take to get it off?
Not long.
I figured it would be a
not,
lot less than 4 hours.
not 4 hours. Unfortunately, it all just goes into the rubbish after that. It's kind of been used to a certain degree, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's all been glued down. So we use I think a little bit of mirror state and things like that to try and get it off. But that was completely like hair tied up, and then you have a cap, a wig cap, to kind of make your head look like a little bald penis sort of thing, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's all stuck down over top of that.
Wow.
But yeah,
Whew,
yeah,
you guys.
definitely didn't take 4 hours to come off. In
Yeah.
fact, I've got a funny video of them peeling my face off, and I was like saying to the makeup artist, "Thanks for the facial, guys." And all the skin's like,
Oh, that's
it's peeling
awesome.
off. Yeah,
Oh, I love it.
yeah,
I gotta. If you've got those on your Instagram reel or something, I've got to hunt those down because
yeah,
I would love to see that. My
yeah.
gosh, that's
That's funny.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Two Boys and Their Scary Pops is coming in with a $2
Ah.
super chat. Thank you, man. Has a question for you. What has been your favorite martial arts to learn? Ooh.
Yeah, that's a very loaded question. I mean, I just love martial arts in general. And the way that I see it is that every martial art is pretty much one and the same thing, but the styles are different. So a punch is a punch, kick is a kick, a block is a block, but it's how do you do it? So I started with Taekwondo and I went to the world champs with that one. So that was the one, that style that I trained the longest. But then I went into Wing Chun, which I always wanted to learn ever since, because some of my favorite films are martial art films, and it's like Ip Man, and I met Donnie Yen, and so that was pretty amazing. So I started learning Wing Chun, and I love that. But then also I've been working a lot over in LA, learning Salat and Filipino sticks. So I just enjoy all of it, and it's just always really interesting to see um, how they can link up to other martial arts, because then it kind of just starts to all make sense. Um, but then I also found that it has the parallels to acting. So I love martial arts because it also helped me with acting, and I think it's something that everybody should do, because those are things that you should be applying to life. Focus and discipline and using your imagination, especially when you go into the ring. You really need to be able to control your emotions and imagine yourself as even a character, really. Even if you don't feel particularly brave, you kind of got to
Mm-hmm.
find that bravery, right? So um, I love all the martial arts. I can't pick one favorite one, unfortunately. But thank you for the question.
Yeah, it's a great question. And appreciate the support, man, as always. And also, got a couple more super chats that have come through. Good friend of the channel, Scott's coming in with a $10 super chat. Thanks for your support, Scott. Says there's no one I'd rather talk about and watch movies than you guys. I love you so much. Hugs. Oh, that's
Ah,
nice.
that's really lovely.
Very nice, Scott. Thank you, man. Well,
Thank
we're very
God you've
happy
got
you're.
some
Go ahead.
fans. You've got
Uh,
some fans.
well, there are a lot of great friends here in the community, and Scott is definitely one of them. So, Scott, we're glad you're here, man. We're glad you're a part of this discussion tonight as well. Thank you, man. And we got Sarah, good friend Sarah, one of my moderators tonight, coming in with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Sarah. Says, thanks for being here, Jacqueline. Is there a stunt that comes to mind that was the most difficult to perform or one that pushed your comfort level? Oh, that's a great question.
That is a really good question. I actually, it's funny because Sarah, every time people ask questions about stunts, the first one they always asked is, have you been injured?
Oh, yeah.
So I really like this one because this is one that pushes your comfort level. And yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, that's exactly what stunts does. It will push your comfort level. Because, there is a certain danger element to a lot of it. There was a stunt that I performed on a drift, doubling Shailene Woodley. You would know Shailene Woodley from Big Little Lies and Insurgent, Divergent, that series.
Okay. Yeah.
And So Adrift is about a true story of a woman who was stuck at sea for something like 41 days. And
Oh,
so it starred Sam Claflin in it as well. But the stunt was, if I can show it, like, if you can imagine a rectangular box like this, and it's a green
okay.
screen, and it's to simulate a boat, a yacht. So the boat goes up into a wave and then it crashes and tumbles around. So
Okay.
basically, they made this green screen box and they put it inside a mouse wheel that was hand rotated by a couple of the special effects guys. My job was to go into that box and roll around while it's being rotated. The box measured 2 meters by 4 meters. So what's that in? So 4, 8, 12 feet. So it's
Okay.
quite a decent size, especially if you're falling 2 and 4 meters, and then you don't. It takes a lot of awareness and a lot of skill in order to know where you are when you're upside down and rolling around and hitting the ground.
Yeah.
So there was specific movement that I had to do in that one, and we did a couple of rehearsals and they went really well. But then we decided that down the end of the box, they would put what we call a pudding. It's like a big squishy pudding, is what Kiwis call it. But it's a big, thick 12-inch mat. And it didn't matter where it fit, but it just basically didn't fit the whole space. So there was a little gap.
Uh-oh.
So rule of thumb in science and in stunts, change one variable at a time so that you know what's working and what's not. And so we added a little bit of direction, and then we added this. And so because I rotated and I did a full couple of circles and then a full vertical drop, I changed the timing of when I dropped, which meant that I went closer to where that gap was. And unfortunately, my arm fell into that gap, and so it was still on the rotation, and my body crushed my arm. So I don't know if you can see it, but I've got this really thin little line.
Oh, I see it.
Can you see
Yes,
that? Yeah.
I
So I've got
do.
a metal plate in that arm now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh.
But a
Oh.
couple of those rehearsals definitely, it definitely pushed my comfort zone a couple of times,
Wow.
because you're like, oh, where am I? But I never had any pain relief for that. So I went to hospital and I didn't get the operation until 7 o'clock the next day. So it happened at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I had to wait a whole half a day until I could have the operation. And I remember,
Wow.
I didn't have any pain relief because I wanted to be able to feel it and see if anything was going wrong. And I
Oh.
remember falling asleep, but when you sleep and you twitch,
Yes.
every time I'd twitch and it felt like I'd re-broken it. So that was
Oh.
fun. And then, of
Oh.
course, because I dislocated it and I had a metal plate put in, it was in a cast for 6 weeks, which meant that all the movement between the ulna and the radius was limited and created a lot of scar tissue. So it took me about 4 months to recreate that movement again.
Goodness, that is
Yeah,
incredible. Wow.
yeah, I
Man,
know.
and of course that doesn't help you because you can't work during that those rehab months either, right? For
Well,
oh, or maybe not.
it was really only the 6 weeks in the cast that I didn't work. I was asked to do some horse riding pretty much the day that I got out
Oh,
of the cast.
wow.
Yeah, so I did. I just had to be very careful and just not break it because, bump it or anything. So I still trained
Yeah.
and I still did some work. And I was also presenting a TV show at the time, so that kind of helped as well because I could do a lot of talking and a lot of
Mhm.
walking, but not a lot else. So
Oh,
that
well,
kept the
that
paycheck
worked out.
coming
Yeah,
in.
exactly. That's perfect, actually. Yes. That's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for your super chat question tonight. That was awesome. And this is the kind of insight you're not going to get, guys, anywhere else. This kind of information is so enlightening and interesting and engaging, and it's just very entertaining. So, Jacqueline, you're doing so awesome tonight. Thank you. This is so much fun. Um, and I want to say real quick, DJ Jack sent in a $10 super sticker. Says thank you. Oh, yes.
Aw,
Whoa.
nice, DJ Jack.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you, man. And thank you for your support of the channel as always and for coming tonight to be a part of this discussion, because it's always fun when you guys are here and can give us your great questions and input as well. So, yeah, absolutely. All right. We've
Gotta
got
love
now
the
here.
Super fans.
Yeah, yes, it's a big deal. Now, 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 Jacqueline, don't feel obligated here, okay? Because
Yeah.
I didn't bring you on here to have to perform. This is just to relax and have a good time. But Jen Warner, one of my longtime OG supporters here at the channel, I probably wouldn't have put it up for anybody else but Jen. Jen asked if it's possible that you could do an American accent, and if you don't want to, just say, "I don't feel like it," and we'll move on. It's all right.
You know, Jen, I have been training an American accent for a really long time. I don't know how good it might be. And I think I use words that might only be used in New Zealand. But sometimes if I
Wow.
freestyle, it will come in and out a little. But I
That's
try.
great. That was really cool. You know, it's amazing to me, like when you find out, like for example, if I don't know an actor is for not from the states, and there's a ton of them, right? Ton of them, and but they speak in English accents in the films, and then you hear them in an interview, and they're talking in their native accent. I'm like, what? And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, that has to be hard to do an I mean, I don't know. I know it's again, I probably everyone feels the same way about a different language, or I mean, accent. But I've tried to do British and Australian, and Jacqueline, I will embarrass myself if I even try to do it now. It's horrible. I butcher it. And to hear like just like what you just did, that was really good. Like it was if you would have started off talking to me that way, I would have never, of course, if I didn't know your history, I would have believed that you were in the States. That's
Right. Because I have to audition like that. So,
that's so cool.
yeah.
is it is it how hard is it? Tell me, is it like just mind control? Like just train like putting a filter
It's
in?
It's all in the mouth. So Kiwis,
Okay.
we speak here. We speak very close and forward and like little, but we also have a lot of like la 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 la. Whereas Americans back here, and there is a particular sound like that Americans use, and
Hmm.
they go, "This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying." Everything's on the out breath, and only inflect when there is a question. So it's like, "How are you today?" That's the only time you go up.
Hmm.
Not like Kiwis, we go up all the time. We're always asking a question.
I love that. That's great. That's so
Yeah,
cool. Well, thank you for being a good sport, Jacqueline, and doing that for us. That was really good.
yeah, of course.
That's awesome. Now, here's a great question coming in from Paula. Paula says, "What has been your most dangerous stunt you had to do on a movie or a show?"
Mm, gosh, I can't even think. I definitely think probably that rotating box would have to be the most dangerous, just because
Yeah.
um, you don't, because it's a device on its own. You know, you're really reliant on the people that are rotating that box, making sure that it's going the same speed every time, and you're also upside down and topsy turvy everywhere.
Mm,
So yeah, you're free balling it on that one for sure. There's a
yeah.
couple of stunts where um, I had to. So basically, you're in a rig, and you get it's called a jerk back, and so there was a wall, and there's two people on the other end, and they can't see anything. But what their job is to do is to run as hard and as fast as they can until the line stops pulling, and the line stops pulling because I'm on the other end of the line, on the other side of
Oh,
the wall, flying
oh,
through the air,
oh
um,
no.
yeah, going smack
Dang.
into the wall.
Oh,
It was every stunt has an element of danger to it. I mean, that was definitely a good spanker for sure. Yeah, we definitely get some good hits.
wow. So I have
Yeah.
to say, like on a typical shoot, not that there really is a typical shoot, obviously, but I mean, on a normal day's work, however you want to say it, How many bruises do you count on an average after average filming of a movie? Or you've got to be covered, right? In a lot of times, I would think.
The tricky thing as a female, we don't always get to cover ourselves up because a lot of the outfits that girls wear,
Yeah.
quite often you're exposed in your knees or your elbows, right? So
Hmm.
as long as I've kind of got a knee pad on or an elbow pad, or we use gels which come from the skating world.
Okay.
They've adapted them and they've called them stunt bumpers, and they're amazing. So
Mm.
I always make sure that I just have a little bit of that on, and especially for my actors as well, because it really does help, and it just takes away, because I'm pretty skinny, and it doesn't matter
Yeah.
how good I can roll or anything else. Those little bony bits are going to find their way to a nice bit of concrete.
Oh.
Always get a little grazed. So I don't actually
Yeah.
need to count the bruises, to be, I'm quite hard to bruise, but I'm also, I'd like to think I'm pretty aware of what I'm doing. So, I mean, there's
Sure.
definitely, on Cowboy Bebop, I got a pretty good one. I got a good Charlie in my leg. And on Ash versus Evil Dead, I got my leg jammed between a door. So my job
Mhm.
was to get pulled out at the same time that a door shuts, and it shut on my leg. So I jammed my leg.
Oh.
And then I
Ouch.
was on Cowboy Bebop, I was performing with the actor. So I was getting thrown around by the actor a lot. And there was a breakaway table. So I broke through the table, but underneath the breakaway table was a non-breakaway table. And so I got a good Charlie in my leg on that one. That had a really nice bruise. It was about that big.
Oh man. Well, and I guess like you say too, knowing as a stunt performer, trained in martial arts, and everything, you probably helps you avoid where a layperson, like you say, like the actor who doesn't, they really are acting, they're focused on acting, not protecting their bodies and
Mm-hmm.
rolling certain ways and all this stuff. I'm sure it's really valuable, and I'm sure they have to appreciate. You're like, hey, look, you can save yourself a lot of a lot of aches and pains if you do this
Yeah.
and do this, and um,
Yeah.
but like you say, even doing that, it's inevitable, right? It's still gonna get you to some degree.
I
Those
had a stunt
bruises.
coordinator say to me, it's not if you get hurt, it's when you get hurt and how bad, basically.
Yes, yes. Well, real quick, Valerie, what's up, Val? Coming in, one of my moderators as well, with a $10 super chat for the channel. Thank you. Says thank you for being here with us today, Jacqueline. What was the one thing that made you want to be a stunt work? And is there anyone else in your family that does stunt work? Ooh, I like that.
Oh, Valerie, that's a really nice question. So when I watched Lord of the Rings and I saw a lot of the fighting in Lord of the Rings, I was like, wow, that looks really fun. How can I do that? That looks really fun. How could I do that? And then I also saw The Seeker. Do you remember that TV show? It's a really old TV show.
Seeker sounds
Um,
familiar, actually.
yeah, and there was a scene, same with Rings,
Hmm.
a scene where somebody's riding across a very big plain on a horse, just bolting. And I was like, wow, that looks really fun. I'd really love to do that. And yeah, so it was watching the fighting and watching horses in film, and that's what enticed me. And then of course my best friend said to me, she's like, you're very physical and very capable, and she knew me all through high school, and she said, you'd be really great as a stunt performer and you should give it a go. But I didn't know how to find stunts. I found that there
Yeah.
was a guild here, but in order to get into the guild, you needed a credit, and in order to get credit, you needed to be on the guild. So it was this weird catch-22. So I guess
Oh
I just
man.
kept asking the question, how could I do this? How could I do this? Um, and things slowly started to fall into place. It's quite uncanny how things, circumstances can come to you without you actually having to necessarily hunt them down.
Hmm.
The synchronicities. So yeah, and nobody else in my family does do stunt work. My brother flies helicopters and started his own digger business, and my other brother is a partner in a bank and oversees a large portion of New Zealand banks. And my parents are retired, so no, they don't. But the one thing I will say is the amazing thing about stunts is that you have a family within the stunt personnel around the world. So when I went over to Hawaii last year, I didn't know anybody, but one of the stunt coordinators, and he does a lot of big films, and he gave me contacts with 3 people, and that created my stunt network. And from there,
Ah,
I tried to run some workshops and help pass on the knowledge that I knew. But those networks, they've become my stunt family in Hawaii, and now I've met people over in America, and they're my stunt family. So yeah, it's a community, and we've all got each other's back, and there's that thread of similarity and commonality, you know. So yeah,
yes. That's great. And I was going to ask you something about that as well, like because I know it's such a niche, right? It's such a niche, profession, I guess you'd say.
yeah,
Um, and so I would imagine it is hard. It's hard to get into it, right? And then I would think once you do get in, as you stated even tonight, it's about networking. It's about growing and
yeah,
showing how well you are at what you do as well. Building
yeah,
that credibility up, and I noticed something else about, and I'm curious for your perspective. And a lot of times I've noticed with folks I've talked to who are in the business, there's a real loyalty thing that goes along where if you work with a particular casting director or stunt coordinator or what have you, and you do really well, you'll they like to bring their same people along if it fits the right description and all that stuff. Have you seen
yeah.
some of that also, like some working with some of the same crew members or coordinators?
Yes, absolutely. It's really funny. I could literally kind of draw a line through my career, and then it sort of starts to create some little branches. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's a beautiful thing. People, if you have the right mindset and you train and you work hard, um, and you're constantly seeking to improve and get better, but you also do the job. You turn up, and you've got a good attitude on set as well. You're nice to
Mhm.
everybody. You get on
Yeah.
with your actors, but you do the job, you know, and you do it efficiently and safely. Um, you're just not a dick, really. Yeah, you will
Yeah.
continue to keep getting work, but I get hired a lot by the same people, and they're my friends. You know, a lot of the coordinators are now really good friends.
Nice.
But with something in stunts, it's different to a lot of other things that you do, and it's purely because we have to rely on each other to keep safe. You
Mhm.
know, the people that you're working with, they are on your line quite often, or they're firing the ratchet, they're doing the safety, or they're putting out the fires, like literally putting out a fire. So um, you have to trust them. You have to like them and
Yeah.
trust them to a certain degree. You know, you have to get
Mhm.
on well. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
we all take
absolutely,
it very seriously.
right. Yeah, because this is really serious stuff. I mean, it could be life-threatening even if it's done wrong, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yep,
so it's I would imagine the more trust you have with certain people, the more that bond gets tighter and the more you do want to be together. And it's like,
yep,
okay, oh, I know I can be safe here. I know I'll be
yeah.
safe here.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's really tricky too because you do make some beautiful friendships, but they're all over the world. You know, I've got really close friends in South Africa now, in Hawaii, and in the States, and in New Zealand, and I can't, you know, I can't be with them all the time. I'd like to take those people and put them in a little basket and, and carry them around with me, but yeah, it is tricky
yes.
in that regard
Yes.
as well.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Um, excuse me one second here. Let me cough for a second. As you guys know, I've been getting over this cough. People on the here in the stream have been hearing me for a while now. They know. So it's getting better, but I'm trying to not blast your ears out here. Um,
Or fall off the chair.
or fall, yeah, exactly. Trying to stay centered. Uh,
They see them.
Val, thank you for your super chat and a great question for our guest tonight. Again, guys, do send in your questions. We can go just a little bit longer. Jacqueline, is it another 5 or 10 minutes okay with your
Yeah,
schedule?
fine. It's all good.
Okay,
Yep.
great. So we're going to go about another 5 or 10 minutes. I do have some questions I have flagged to get to, but super chats move to the front of the line. So if you want to ensure you get your question in, again, super chat will guarantee it. But I do have some others I'll get to. But obviously, I'm not going to get to everyone's questions. It would take us another hour or two to get through everything. So, we'll do the best we can. All right. But in the spirit of that, Hollywood guy did send in a super chat in, and you guys moved to the front of the line. And Jacqueline, what was your hardest stunt, or one that made you hesitate for a second? Now, this is an interesting question because you kind of touched on earlier about with the boat and the upside down and the
Mm.
injury. My gosh. But I love this second part of the question. Maybe that's a little different.
Mhm.
And maybe that was a different stunt. Maybe that, you didn't hesitate on that one, but it ended up being the one that hurt you. Was there one when you got the word, this is what you have to do, that made you hesitate for a second? I like that.
Um, it wasn't. Yeah, definitely learning to do high falls.
Mm.
I don't know how
Ooh.
many people really love falling from heights, but not so much on set, but definitely when I first started to learn high falls, because there's different ways that you can do it. So there's ones where you just sort of jump and you land on your back, and then there's ones where you go backwards and you fall on your back. But then there's ones where you do what's called a header. And so basically, if you're here, whoopsie, if you're there, you jump and then you go straight down towards the mat, and then the last second you flip onto your back. And then there's a face off where you jump and then you go like that, and then you flip onto your, so you jump and then you flip onto your side, but onto your back. But definitely doing the one where with the header, where you go head first and then
Yes.
fall onto your back. That
Oh.
I knew I could do it. I felt it in my body that I could do it, but just taking the first step to get yourself to do it. Because it's also funny when you start from 3 meters, it's which is like 9 feet. It doesn't seem that high, but when you're
Yeah.
standing up there, it's really high.
I
And
bet.
then, the platform that we work off at the gymnastics place, that goes to 10 meters, so that's 30 feet.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's a bit gnarly.
that's getting up
So
there
that
now.
would be the one that, yeah, I think that would make a lot of people sort of hesitate for a second, especially just when you first start training. After that, you're just, you know what to do. Your body knows it. It's fine.
Oh gosh. So I have to ask you that because that's a great, interesting point you brought up. When you're training yourself, because it's not natural for any of us naturally, instinctually, to just fall and just let ourselves
No,
just fall off of anything. And and what is that process like of training yourself to where you're comfortable? Like, oh, I'm just another day at the
yeah,
office. Let's go. You know, is it just
yeah.
repetition or is it mental work as well?
It's body awareness, and I think it's all of that. It's I like visualization, so that's the actor and the martial arts parallels that I talk about. Like when you sit
Yeah.
down and you visualize something so that you can feel it in your body, especially if you're a
Hmm.
little bit unsure with it. But that goes really well with any stunts that you do. Before I do the stunt, I'll be in my head and my body a little bit, and just sort of, I can feel myself going through it. Because that way you can feel the timing and all that sort of thing. But yeah, falling's a weird thing. Before I started stunts, I actually fell over on the street as an adult. It was random and weird, and I've never done that before. But I was like a little shaken up, and I was like, this is so weird, because you don't fall over as an adult, and there's
Yeah.
a lot further to fall.
Hmm.
But in stunts, yeah, you definitely training yourself to fall. It's repetition. It's being aware of your body. It's understanding what parts of your body to fall on and what's safer, because otherwise you can pop out shoulders or pop out a hip and all that sort of thing. And
Oh,
especially if you're getting thrown by somebody. So one of the big things that they like to incorporate now is BJJ and throws, body throws,
yeah.
um, under the heat of the pressure, and putting all these different beats in, and then finishing with this big throw or whatever. um, Little things like that can, cause little injuries as well, or big injuries, just because you've
Yes.
fallen the wrong way, or your timing was a little bit off, or you got a bit more height than you expected. So yeah, just training. And one of the best examples of that is there's an amazing stunt performer here called Kazu, and he's been doing 25 to 30 years on Power Rangers. Super phenomenal
Wow.
performer. Every time I see him at training, he starts with the basics. He starts with a roll, he starts with a backwards roll, and he builds it
Mhm.
up. And of course, he doesn't have to spend a lot of time on those things, but he constantly revisits it. So it's keeping the basics strong all the time.
Yeah.
And then if you do that, you can pretty much do anything from there. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. What was great advice. I mean, no matter how skilled you get in any field, you never forget the fundamentals, right?
Mm-mm.
That because it's all built on the fundamentals and build up. So
Yeah.
that's really interesting, and it's a great lesson too for anyone who's gifted in things of like or maybe not as gifted, but they're working on it. You always stick with what you build your foundation on, and you never
Yeah.
forget it. So
Yeah.
that's great
I,
advice.
I think also to go back to what Hollywood guys asked as well is that
Hmm.
what people forget is stunts is a really broad subject.
Yeah.
There's martial arts, and within martial arts, there's multiple martial arts. And then there's horse riding, and then there's motorbikes, and then there's all the water stuff. There's
Yep.
heights. Do you know what I mean? So anything
Yeah.
that isn't walking is considered a stunt. And
Hmm.
all of that takes time and all of it takes expertise. And in America, they do a lot of specializing. But in New Zealand, we can't really afford to specialize because we don't have as many stunt performers. And so, as a stunt double, you have to be able to do a lot more stuff and
Wow.
be a lot more general and broad. So, there's a lot more training to it. So,
Yes.
yeah, there's always going to be something that will make you hesitate for a second because you're not used to doing all of those things.
Yeah. Or maybe
Uh,
you do it every now and then, right? Like it's part of your portfolio, but
Correct.
not all the time. So it's kind of like, oh, I gotta go back to that place again. That
Yeah.
space, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
That was me
awesome.
on a motorbike going down a very big hill. And I was
Oh
like,
gosh.
oh,
Oh, here we go.
yep.
Oh, thanks, Hollywood guy. Appreciate that. Um, Now, two boys in their scary pops earlier had a great question for you. Says thoughts on Hollywood needing to recognize stunt work in an Oscar category, which I think is criminal. That
Yeah.
that's not more of a big deal. What do you feel about that as part of being in the industry?
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what your thought, what your fans think of that, as well. I absolutely think that they need to be recognized because um, we have our own awards. We have Taurus Awards and SAG Awards, and um,
Mhm.
the there's Artemis Awards, which is just the women stunt, and then over in the UK they have the Stunt Register Awards and things like that. But they're not recognised, by all categories. But
Yeah.
I think it's really important because, like you said, stunts make up a really important element to
Yes.
films, and a
Huge.
lot of your action films, those are all stunts,
Hmm.
and a lot of the horror films, they have a lot more stunts in it than probably what people would even consider. Like I said, anything more than just walking and talking is, anytime you see one of your actors falling over, scraping along the ground, getting
Hmm.
dragged, all of that there's an element of danger. If you watch Ash versus Evil Dead, there's a lot of rigs in that. I got pounded a lot, flung up and around and all over the place when I was doubling
Yes.
Dana De Lorenzo,
Yes.
and people get hurt, and so. Um, but I do think that brings a really, really important element to films that it should be recognised. Yeah, that's me in a rig. So there's a harness um, on on me, but I think it was also one where it's around my ankle as well. So I basically get flicked up into a tree,
Oh.
and then I have to turn myself around and fall down about 4 or 5 meters onto my face, and
Oh
then
gosh.
I got blasted out of the tree. So I got jerked out of the tree, and then I had to do a turn up over my shoulder to land on my face. And then
Goodness.
there was a lot of there was one where my wig came off actually,
Oh no. Oops.
and we needed more pins.
Yeah, more pins. Uh,
Yeah,
and we didn't get a lot of time to talk about. And I know we're getting ready to wrap up, so I want to be respectful of your time. Um, but I just have to ask you on the Ash versus Evil Dead that season, or your time working there. Um, what was your typical? If again, I would say typical. I know it's not really a typical, but like, what was an average work day on set? You're there. Did you get to interact with Bruce a whole lot on set, or or I'm obviously with Dana De Lorenzo, obviously, but just kind of just briefly, I know because of your time, I don't want to keep you too long, but I would love to hear just a little bit about that Ash versus Evil Dead
So you
experience.
So for that one, there was a lot of rehearsals, and very quick rehearsals because it was a quick moving TV show and there was a lot of stunts in it. So your days would be very busy in the rehearsal process, but also on set because, like I said, there were just a lot. Like even in that photo, that just brings back several days of just being jerked around in rigs and things like that. So, and you do as many takes as they want you to do, but I think within one day we did like 4 rigs, which is 4 different setups and things like that.
Wow.
And with Ash vs Evil Dead, there was a lot of blood. There was one point where I was literally lying caked in blood, like all through my
Oh,
hair, all through my costume. Bruce, I was working with Bruce's stunt double, Rachel, who's super talented, and he was slipping and he was sliding all through the pools of blood and stuff like
oh,
that. We didn't, I didn't always get to see Bruce because he would be on set. He's super professional. He's on set and then he's away doing what he needs to do, and then he comes back. Dana, I saw a lot and worked with a lot. Lucy Lawless worked a lot with. She was really great. Actually, she always wanted me to use my American accent and do acting opposite her. So that was really fun. A lot of. I also had an acting role on Ash versus Evil Dead. I played Amanda, a crazy patient, and she was in the asylum. I was like a meth addict, and so I had to do a little bit of research on meth addict because I'm not one, and so I didn't really know what that would entail. So yeah, if you watch, I think season 2, one of those episodes in there, I think it might be 6 or 7.
okay.
Ashy Slashy, and that's me as a meth patient, and I'm acting directly opposite Dana De Lorenzo. Yeah. So that was fun.
Oh,
And she was super supportive and just like, oh, this is so cool. But I did play like 8 different characters in season 2. So
that's awesome. I need to go back and watch. I want to watch season 2 again,
yeah.
and like there she is. And
Yeah.
because
It-
it's really an honor. Like when I get to meet you and others, I've been fortunate and blessed that have come to the channel to meet me and discuss their careers. Watching the films and the shows that you're in, it's different now. It's like, oh, it just adds another really cool element, especially after we've had a chance to talk about scenes and
mhm.
different things. And like when they happen on screen, I'm like, we talked about that scene. I remember that, and the
Yeah.
rig and all that. Um, it's so cool. It's just so
Yeah,
cool.
it was cool going to the movies with some of my best friends for Guns Akimbo
Yes.
because I did that whole film and there's a lot of it that's me and I'm like that's me that's me that's me that's me and I played different characters too, so like I might be driving or like Daniel Radcliffe was amazing to work with as well, talking about putting on an American accent. He's British and he can do a phenomenal American accent and super supportive of stunts.
Mhm.
He really was great with the stunt team, and he actually wrote us a really kind card at the end for myself, the stunt coordinator, and his stunt double, just thanking us and saying how much they valued our work and how important we were to the characters. I had to act opposite him, when
Uh,
Sam had to be ushered off set because sometimes the actors can't be on set or they're going over time. So we have
mhm.
to step in. And so I had to quickly learn her lines and act opposite him. And
Wow.
he was really, really grateful for that. And yeah, so there's a big part to
Wow.
the role that people don't really understand. They just think you get smacked around a lot or, you
Right.
know, there's a big element. Stunts are a really big important aspect of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And like you say, there's so much more than people often assume. And and that's why I was, as I was mentioning to you earlier before we started the show, I really want to shine as much light on the amazing work that you and your peers do in the industry because it's I'm telling you, these movies, these TV shows, they would not be these shows we adore and we love so much and we are chomping at the bit for the next episode and all this stuff.
Mm.
That wouldn't happen without the work you guys do.
Yeah.
You're the ones that really yeah, you seriously it is. And I having discussions like this are great insight for all of us who watch, and myself as a host, as I continue to learn and more about the industry. You just shine such a light on how much really there is to do and how much is
Mm.
involved in your work. And you're right. So the typical person says, "Oh, well, just throw them up in front of a car and let them, jump on the hood or whatever."
Yeah.
This is like, I have such respect for what you do too, because
Yeah.
it is legitimately professional performing. You're acting in your own right on every
Yeah.
scene. I
Yeah.
mean, it's true.
Yeah.
I
It's
mad respect for you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It's really funny too. I think something people don't really recognize with scary films or, slashy films or whatnot is
Mhm.
there's no glamour in it at all. Quite often you're covered in blood, like even just when they've got cuts and scratches and you've got blood on your face, it's quite itchy and you're not allowed to touch it because otherwise it comes off for continuity, or
Yes.
sometimes you've got blood dripping down and through your costume, and so you're
Oh,
really uncomfortable. You could be cold. Oh, going back to that sci-fi question, it just made me sort of
yeah.
think. I did Ghost in the Shell. That would have been sci-fi.
Oh, yeah, Ghost in the Shell, that's
Yeah,
right.
so I played one of the geishas on that, and I was
Yeah.
just when I was thinking of being uncomfortable, I instantly went to that geisha costume,
Oh
and
gosh.
I was covered in like layers of silicon, which under lights was really really hot, and if you're cold and sweaty was because it adapts to what what the temperature are, so then you could be really really hot, but then you could
Mhm.
also be really cold. And there was super layers of costuming, and then there was the helmet, and it
Yeah.
had two tiny little holes that you could breathe through, and then they had incense going, and so
Oh.
I was just
Oh.
sort of thinking really uncomfortable. But yeah, I mean, there's no glamour. There's people are like, oh, these actors, they're earning lots of money. Yeah, they are, but they're also quite often extremely hot, extremely cold, tired, really long hours. A lot of the stuff is filmed, during the whole night. So you're doing a night shoot.
Yeah.
Everyone's pumped up on coffee, and so
And there's no, when the director says it's time to go, there's no, they're expecting you to be A game, not on your B, not to
yeah,
be human being and actually be tired, right?
yeah,
That you're the robot version of yourself. Everything's A level all the
yeah,
time.
yeah,
Wow, man, it's
yeah.
incredible. Wow, that's amazing. Well, guys, it's been so much fun, and I know there were a lot of questions we weren't able to get to tonight, but I know you guys all out there understand. It's just not enough time for us to get to everyone. But thank you for sending your questions in. Those that we were able to share were really, really good. Um, we do have a lot of folks as we're starting to wrap up now and say goodnight, Jacqueline, that are saying thank you for coming. They
Oh,
just expressing their appreciation for you to being here tonight as well. Um, and everyone's just had a really great time. Um, Jason the Nice One says, Jacqueline, thank you for taking your time to be with us. All the best. Huge movie fan. I appreciate all the
oh.
hard and dangerous work you do.
Thanks,
We really
Jason.
do. Yeah, we appreciate what you do, Jacqueline. I know that there's probably not enough people and not enough fans probably say that to you and so other storm performers. But on behalf of all of my community here on my channel, I can tell you we thank you and we appreciate your work, and it means a lot to the films we love and adore. And so thank you for
Oh,
choosing to be such an amazing performer in what you do.
oh, we really appreciate that, and I appreciate all the fans out there because without people wanting to watch them, there wouldn't be anything that would need to make. But if anybody's out there and they want to be an extra and get themselves into some of the background of some of these films, they could see what's going on and have a part of it. It can always be really, really fun. Always playing different
Yeah.
characters. You know,
Yes.
throw in your job.
cough had to get me there. Um,
Hope you're feeling better soon.
oh, thank you, Jacqueline. I appreciate it. I'm actually much better than I have been, and it's just on that tail end. Sometimes when you
Hmm.
get to the tail end, it just doesn't want to go. Like lunges in and like, no, I'm not going yet. Yes. Uh, Also,
Yeah.
real quick before we wrap, I want to just say thanks to everyone. There's a lot of channel anniversaries tonight. I'm seeing here like Haunted by Horror. This is your 8-month anniversary being a channel member. Thank you so much for that. Denisha, this is your 9-month anniversary. My goodness, the time is flying by. Ghostface Fanatic, your 9-month anniversary being a supporter channel of the channel. And I'm probably missing someone. Cody, looks like Cody is a 6-month anniversary for Cody. And if I have missed you tonight, I apologize. But I just want to really give a blanket shout out to you guys for thanking you for your support every month of the channel. You guys help keep the lights on and keep this channel growing. And I really appreciate all of you guys. And everyone, let's give it up to Jacqueline. Let's give a round of applause in the chat for Jacqueline tonight. She's been absolutely amazing. Such a kind guest and open and transparent with us. And Jacqueline, I just want to thank you again for this time and for hanging out and just opening up the book of your life here, of your
Oh,
career. It's been wonderful.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I'll see you backstage. So don't go anywhere, Jack. I'm going to meet you backstage again when the stream ends here. Um, and for everyone else in the chat, again, thank you for all your super chats, your questions, your attendance. And if you're watching this on the replay mode, we hope you enjoy it as well. If you've not yet hit the thumbs up button, if you enjoyed this stream and want to say a way of thanking Jacqueline, please smash the thumbs up button as we head out. It's going to help the stream in replay mode get seen by more people, and the algorithm is how it works. So we appreciate that. It doesn't cost a dime. Just hit that, smash that thumbs up button, and we'd appreciate it. All right, guys, we're going to call it a night here. Thank you again, Jacqueline. I'll see you in just a second. And for everyone else, I'll be back. When am I back? I'm going to be back on Monday night. Yeah, Monday night. I'll also be on Gory B Movies channel tomorrow night talking about Scream, the original Scream from '96. So don't forget that. And for everyone else, you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you soon. Good night, guys.